Hey, welcome to the Blessed Workshop. I want to welcome everyone here today. You know, I set out about a month ago to put together this project of this flip top table saw cart, I guess you would call it. It's a little bit more than a cart. It's kind of a workbench. It's kind of a cart. It's got a lot more going for it. There's some prizes and some secrets to it that are going to make it really a good project for me going forward. I have some other plans for it, but for the most part, the bulk of it is complete. You know, I thought when I set out on this, it would take me about 2 weeks, but I am working on it on the weekends, and so it took me a little longer than I anticipated. But the rest of the pieces of the project hopefully won't take as long. Now, my wife always says, when you plan something, always plan on 3 times what you think it's going to be. And for the most part, she's almost right. Yeah, I said that. She's right. So I want to show you what I have here, and I will step you through the build. Now, I'm probably going to divide this video up into 2 or 3 different parts because there was a lot to it, and I had some hiccups and some things that didn't go quite right. But I'll explain that. I did solve those problems, and I think it came out pretty good. So I'm going to show you what I've got here. All right, well, here it is. I'm pretty proud of the way it turned out. You know, it's a flip top. I've got this, the portion we're looking at right now is I'm using the cordless Ryobi table saw. And this little table saw is really good. I really like this table saw. It's cut everything I've ever needed. And I do have a Diablo blade in it. And I have 2 HP batteries for it, and it's cut everything I've ever needed. I've never really had it run out on me, or never had had to bind up on it or anything like that. It's never really choked on me, and so it does a really good job. And it is a flip top. I wanted to get out of the way right now. These 2 voids on each side. I will be putting shelves in there, I will be putting drawers or some kind of pullouts in there to store things like extra blades and router bits and things like that. But I haven't quite decided how I want to do that yet. So I'm gonna work with it a little while until I decide where I want what. And in a future video, we will build those drawers and pullouts. So you can see that I've got these extended wings on each side. You have to bring up the wings to be able to flip the top over. And the wings are just on these little drop-down shelf brackets. These brackets have a rating of like 200 pounds. So they're really strong, really durable. And I really like the way I've had, a lot of stuff up on these things already. It gives me a nice worktop. It's 7.5 feet tall, 7.5 feet long from end to end. And my top height here is 40 inches. This is what I wanted. I wanted 40 inches. I really like this height. You know, it's a good height for me. I'm not a tall person, but I really like this height. Rather than 36, I didn't want it at 36. 36 seemed to be too low for me. So I've got it at 40 inches. Now, how this works is I've got some eye bolts that are attached to a dowel that run through a block in here. You can see this area right here. There's a block in here that runs to this part. And in the carcass of the flip top, there's a hole in there, a 7/8 inch hole that a dowel runs into. So I've got the dowel connected with the eye bolt, and it's just a plunger type lock. So I pull it out on each side, and then I can flip it just like that. So now I have the router top, or soon to be router top. It is feeling quite tight right now. It all depends. I've got some leveling. I have some leveling feet on the bottom of this as well. My garage is not the most level thing, and I can see that maybe I need to raise this side up where I currently have it, but it's fine for where I have it now. So this is where the router will go. I've got a cordless Ryobi router as well, and I'm going to build a router lift in a future video, 2 or 3 more down the way here. That's going to fit inside here with a router plate on top of it. That will also be cordless. So the whole thing is cordless, and that's a great thing. This is what I wanted to do. I wanted to make it modular and cordless. So this is going to be the router part of it. Flip it back over to the table saw. And it's just that easy. It works really well. I'm really pleased with how easy it is to move and flip over. I can put down the wings, just like that. And, you know, I wanted it to be mobile and modular, so I do have wheels on it. And the wheels are the casters over here. They're workbench casters, and I can just push them down just like this. And there you go. I can move it wherever I want to move it. It moves that easy. This thing weighs significant, but once I put these workbench wheels on it, it moves really nice. You can see that's the back of it right there. So again, I've got some plans for these cavities in here. This is where the router would go. Probably the battery receptacle and the power switch will go over here. And I've got a control box that'll go right here in that when you see it right side up. Right now it's upside down. But there you go. I'm going to flip it over one more time so you can see that front of where the router is going to go. Flips just that easy. There's a catch somewhere here. There it is. I did put some wax on those dowels to make it nice and easy to slip them inside. So yeah, I'll probably have my power switch, this guy right here, right? And the battery receptacle, which is this guy right here, will go over on this side. You can see that battery receptacle on the other side, and it just allows me to put the Ryobi battery inside of it. So I'm going to flip it over one more time so you can see that. That's how easy it is to flip. It's really nice. So I can just take one of my batteries here, just like this, and put it inside here. So this is where the battery receptacle, if you know the Ryobi table saw, has the battery receptacle on this side, but I had to adapt it because I had no way to get inside there and put the battery in it. So I've got an adapter wire to it and comes around here. I'll explain all that in the build video. And I put my battery on the outside here. So then I can operate my saw. And I will be, let me get this. I will be building a fence for this, but I don't have it built yet. So that's in another video coming up. I'm probably going to divide this video on the build for this in about 2 videos or maybe 3. It all depends on how long it is. There was quite a bit going on in this past 4 weeks. But this is what I'm using for now for the fence. And I just put it across the top of this. It's not the most square thing, so I have to square it up when I want to use it. But I just put it wherever I want it, and I just crank it down, and it stays in place. So that's enough of the introduction to it. I hope you like it. We'll show you the build video, and at the end, I'll tell you more about it. Thanks. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is lay out all my cuts on this sheet of 3/4 inch plywood. I use a tool called SketchUp to make all my drawings, and there is a nice plug-in for that. Cut List, I believe is what it's called. And on Cut List, it will lay out all of your cuts onto your sheet. So it'll print out a nice sheet where you can then transfer all of your cuts onto your sheet of 8-foot by 4-foot plywood. And so you see here where we laid out all the dimensions of all the cuts, and then we're taking a straight edge and clamping it down along the board here and using a circular saw to cut it out, which is general practice. Most everybody does it this way. It's hard to cut a full sheet of plywood onto a table saw. So, and you see I use their 3-inch pink insulation foam as a sacrificial piece to cut on. And then I'm cutting everything down on the table saw into smaller pieces. Makes it really nice, and then I can do all my cuts. All right, and then once we get everything cut out, I tried to cut out all of the pieces that we would need for this project ahead of time. And then we're gonna go here and cut out some notches that are in this. These are the side panels for the Carcass, for the flip top itself. And here you see me using my iPad with SketchUp on it to actually check dimensions or add dimension lines where I didn't have them in there before, so I could actually see what the dimensions were going to be and make sure my dimensions were correct. And then I can just transfer all my drawing lines down onto my board there. So I'm just making sure I got everything right. Okay, and then I take my quick square and I lay everything out. Those metal rules I've got there, I'm going to actually make some blocks for those, stop blocks for those at a later video. So we'll do that in a nice little short video for making some stop blocks. But yeah, once we get everything lined up and drawn out onto the board, we just take a straight edge. We're going to use a jigsaw to cut out these notches and then trim everything up. Make sure everything's really nice. That's my son Patrick, my youngest son Patrick. He's 18. He just turned 18, and he really loves working with his hands. He gets out there and helps me work on all this. He enjoys it a lot, and I enjoy having him work with me. Work really well together. Like, perfect. So here you see we're doing the same thing on the other side. Flip card has, of course, 2 sides, and we're just mirroring the cuts on the other side. So we discovered that they weren't quite square with each other. So we're just using our trim router here to trim everything up. Cutting things out with a circular saw, sometimes it's not always exactly square like you would like, so we just trimmed everything up. And then here we use a Forstner bit to cut the hole, to drill the holes into the sides of the carcasses that will actually be used to put that iron pipe through. All right, so once we got everything laid out on those 2 sides of the carcass, we are then going to assemble it with the sandwich, or the actually center core of the flip cart. I don't know why. I don't have any video of this. I don't know if I didn't record it or I lost it, but anyway, basically I just made a sandwich out of some plywood and some 2x4s that I ripped down to about 2 inches wide to accommodate for that pipe running through there. And we just secured that pipe through the middle there so that it would be secure and not slide around. So we're going to take this and we're going to secure it in place with some clamps and some of those L clamps, or clamp holes that you can actually put in there to make sure everything's squared up. And then we will take those off, glue them in place, and then we'll come back afterward and put in some nails with the nail gun. Here it is, glue. The glue is drying, and then we're just putting in some nails to secure it, give some extra secureness to it. Okay, so Patrick and I worked on this most of the day yesterday, figuring out how to get the sandwich for the flip top part created and fixed. I hadn't tried the table saw on it up until this morning, and to my dismay, it came out and it's not quite fitting as I had hoped. I had anticipated, or I had designed it so that the table saw would fit between the two sides, and that's not the case. It's about 3/4 of an inch off in my measurement. So I think we're gonna have to do some, I don't know, some work with a router to get that to fit down into the sides, to fit down inside there. We got to clean out this garage first, get all the extra stuff out of here. But as you can see, table saw is not fitting down on the floor like it needs to be because we're overlapping the sides. I had hoped that this would flush up against the sides here. I'll be taking those out on each side, and it's just not the case. I actually need to do some adjustments in there because the way I'm going to route the battery power, I'm not going to actually use this to actually insert the batteries in. I'm going to have a place on the outside of the body of the flip top to insert batteries. And so yeah, you know, this is what you come up against. It's called problem solving, and it doesn't always work out as you planned. So we'll get Patrick's reaction when he comes out, but we'll work through it. But I think the rest of the work through should go fairly easy. I shouldn't say that, but we'll see. All right, Pat, so you're ready for this? I came out and I put the table saw on the cart top, the flip top. Come over here and look. Yeah, I'm about 3/4 of an inch. We're about 3/4 of an inch off in our measurement. So, you have an idea how we can fix this? I do. We're probably going to have, first of all, we're going to remove this, right? Because that's causing us not to be able to come up flush or inside there.
Oh, yeah.
All right, but that still isn't going to solve the problem. What we're going to need to do is take our router and cut some notches down these boards so I can slide it in. So that way it can sit down. Because we're about half an inch, 3/4 of an inch to go. So we'll just have to route out this so they can sit down inside their flush. That being said, it might actually give us a more flush top. I'm not sure. Anyway. Okay, so we'll take off the clamps and then we'll see saw fits.
What's better than the video, this stuff we're not doing.
Right. Just turn it off and turn it on.
I didn't pause the...
Yeah. Pull that off. Oh. Those feet are always coming off. There we go. All right, let's see if it fits. Hopefully it fits. Yes, I saved the 6 that you uploaded to the album, or 5, or whatever it was. All right, here, you want to grab the back end of this saw so I can grab the front. You grab the back. There you go. And then I'll bring my hands around. Let's see if it fits in there. Yeah.
Can you steer your way?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so what this is a adapter to adapt a DeWalt battery over to a Ryobi battery, and it's going to go inside the saw, and then we're going to wire the other piece. If you can grab it out of that box, the one with the wire sticking out right there, and we're going to take this other one, which is a adapter to use a Ryobi battery, and a kid's toy, some kind of, but it's got an on-off switch too. So, okay. So I've done a little bit of a initial startup here with this. I've got my Ryobi high performance 4 amp hour battery that goes with the table saw here, and I've put in this adapter for the DeWalt battery to be used. I've pulled all the back off. I'll show you that in a little bit. But I pulled all the back off, exposed the wiring, took off. There was a little USB chip in there. I pulled that out because you can use it to charge USB devices with. I might use that someplace. And then I got this adapter, which is used to use a Ryobi battery, an 18-volt Ryobi battery that you can insert in here and power up. I don't know, there's some kid's toy that you can use this, and so you can have a rechargeable battery for your kid's toy. So I wired this up with some wire nuts. I've got it in the off position just for safety reason. Put my battery in. I'm going to set it down here on a level surface, and you see how I turn on the switch, it doesn't turn on, right? Because I've got that off switch. So this is kind of like a little extra backup. I'm going to turn that into the on position, making sure this is off. Okay, turn it in the on position, and now you can see the saw actually works. So that's successful. We're going to be able to mount this onto the front of the cabinet and then be able to put the batteries in and out like this instead of coming around to the side of the machine. So we'll be able to put our batteries in and then turn them on. Just so you can see, doesn't work. Okay, so that worked out as I hoped. Okay, so then we got all that worked out. These are the actual side panels that are going to be holding up the sides, what I call side stands. I don't really have a good name for them. They're side stands. They're going to have some levels in there with some shelving or some divisions in there that we're going to put some drawers. You saw when I introduced this earlier. But we just custom dados in there with my router, the trim router. Got those nice snug fit for the plywood to fit inside there. And just cleaned it up really nice. I really like this trim router. It works really nice. And I just laid up 2 straight edges so that I could make that a dado the width I needed. And then I'm going to put a bevel along the edge of this sheet of plywood here. And the way I did this was I just took a straight piece of plywood that had a factory edge on it. It was nice and straight. And then I laid it onto the table saw along with that straight edge along the side of the edge of the table saw there, and then put my blade at a 45-degree angle. You can see here I'm using the table saw inside the flip top for the first time, and I can just run it along that edge, and it keeps a nice straight cut, running it along the edge of the board there, along the edge of the table saw. Nice straight edge. Yep. Okay, so I've turned the table saw upside down. I am going to try to get the height of where this pipe should fit on the side stands, I call them. So I know I'm going to have a Formica top on top of 2 thicknesses of plywood. All right, so I'm going to place my cards. I've got 3 cards that kind of evened out to be about the same thickness as Formica. And then I'm going to place the plywood down to basically these would be the top panels from the side stand. So that should give me about the thickness right there below the pipe where my side stand will reside. And I will then bring the panel over here and basically mark the height right this way. About there. All right. Let's just push it up against it, see if I can make an impression. And I did, somewhat. So I can see it's about right there. Okay. That lines up. Does. All right, so then I just take a hole saw and drill a nice big, I think it was about a 1.5 inch hole, 1 3/4 inch hole. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use some epoxy to epoxy a wall bearing into each side. That way when that iron pipe goes through the side of the side stands here, it's rolling not on wood, but it's rolling on those bearings, and it's going to make it nice. And you saw in the beginning how nicely it turned on those wall bearings. I wanted to do that so it'd save also wear on the wood. I thought eventually flipping that thing up and down, upside down, flipping it over many times, it would eventually wear down on the wood. So I'm hoping that the wall bearings here will help that, and we'll never have to worry about that. So I just drop it down in the hole. Epoxied it, or threw some epoxy around it, and epoxied it all in there, and it made it really nice and tight and held very well. All right, so I'm just gluing in some of the wood here, that dado I made earlier. Throw in some wood glue down in there. I've got some pocket holes I've already drilled into those pieces that are going to be the spacer boards or the shelf boards between the two pieces of the side stands. Each side stand has two sides to it, and then it just got some dividers that go in between there. So once I get it all, the glue all spread out, I'm going to take it and kind of tap it into place there. Take my pocket screws and just secure it in place. Make sure it's nice and square. All right, so here we are. We're got those blocks, those blocks that are going to be holding the dowels. And I don't have a drill press, but I've got a friend who does. He's got a nice big shop, and went over to his place and first drilling a little pilot hole down through these, and then we just, we just use a Forstner bit to just drill a hole all the way through that block on each side. So we have two of those blocks, and then here I brought it back to my garage and I'm going to glue them in place. I just take some glue and drop down inside there, and then I'm going to clamp it all down and make it a little nice. You can see that hole through that block. Okay, so here I am assembling the tops of the side panels, or the side stands. And so they're going to be, the way I'm making all of my tops is I'm using a sheet of MDF, or a part of MDF, sandwiched on top of a piece of 3/4 inch plywood. So I've got 3/4 of MDF, 3/4 of plywood. Glued it all together, sandwich it together. Spreading out the glue with a roller here, and I get all that glue nice and even around that MDF, and then taking my piece of plywood and sandwiching it together with it. Clamp it all up. I'll clamp it, put some weight on it. I want a nice secure hold on all that. So we'll just get everything clamped on there. And then I'm going to pop. I'm going to drill some pilot holes, and I'm going to secure it with some short wood screws in there as well. I just didn't want it delaminating or coming apart at any point. Probably overkill, but I just wanted to make sure they were nice and secure and would never come apart. All All right, so this is a piece of 2x4 that I'm using to line the inside of the side panel or the side stand that the pipe will kind of sit in, so that I don't have the pipe exposed on the inside of the side stand. And I'll just take that piece of 2x4 and secure it on the inside of that, so that pipe will just kind of like sit inside there. So you got it running through that hole that has the wall bearing, and then this will go over the top of that. And I just wanted to make sure I had a certain depth. I don't remember what the depth was, but it was about, like, I don't know, 3/4, maybe an inch deep. There it is. There's the side panel with the board getting ready to glue it down. So you can see the wall bearing there, and I'm going to take my piece of my section of 2x4 and glue it down. Again, just clamp everything down after you get the glue on it. I like to use some clamps and then some weights, put it in place. There's all my clamps and all my L brackets. Again, putting some plywood there into that dado, another dado. I think this is the other side. You know, once you've done one side, the other side's a lot easier because you've already done it once. So here you see that plunger. And I'll get back to this later, but I also put Formica on the tops of all of my pieces, my worktops. But here I'm taking a piece of aluminum. I have a 3/8 inch aluminum rod that I initially put into these dowels, and I epoxied them in, and I ran them through the blocks. They worked really well. But there's a reason why I traded out the aluminum for eye bolts, and I think you know why. But here you see I'm fitting it through there, pushing it through, and you can see how it's going to work. It's just going to plunger it in and out. So yeah. And here I am using contact cement. So I'm putting contact cement on top of my MDF. Getting back, this is the other side. Putting some contact cement down on top of that MDF, and I'll put it on the back, the underside also of the Formica that I have cut out to go on top. So here it is, contact cement. I use Weldwood's contact cement. Works really great. You just put it on each side of whatever you're going to be laminating together, and you let it set for a few minutes. I think it's like 10 minutes on each side. So I just spread it all out. I'm just using a scrap piece of plywood there that I'm spreading everything out. You can use a brush or a roller or whatever. And then you just place it down and put it in place. And then this is a roller that you can use to press down all your laminate down on top of it, and then I trimmed it out. Came out really nice. So that was the first side. Sorry, that was the second side. I missed the first side. Drilling some pocket holes into the sides of the side stand here to secure everything down. This is the other side of it, so everything gets screwed in place. All right, so there you see both side stands have been completed. Just checking for level, making sure that, look at there, I can drag that piece of wood across there. No catching. It's nice and level. Nothing's gonna catch. Good. And pulling the plungers out there, you flipping it over for the first time. That was really satisfying to do. And then putting it back in place. All right, so I'm getting ready to put the front face on the table saw side, and I pulled the table saw out, flipped it on its side, and I put a piece of 1/8 inch plywood. I wanted to do that, just give it a little bit more meat for the receptacle for the battery. So I just placed that on there, and then drilled out a couple of pilot holes and put my jigsaw to work, and cut out where the battery receptacle is going to go. And I fed it in from the back. So once I get this hole cut out, I'll pop it out, and I'll take my file and sandpaper and sand it all out nice and smooth. And then I will place that receptacle through the back of it. Yeah, so I just push it right back inside there, pull the wires through. And I do put some epoxy in there once I get it all where I want it, to hold it in place. So yeah, I put it in place there and put some epoxy in that back part there to just secure it. I was trying to figure out how to make it spaced out, space it so that the epoxy would hold. And here I am trying it for the first time, put that battery inside there, and very satisfyingly, I put my board up there. This original, here I am using the original fence for the table saw, and it worked great. So I'm getting ready to make the top for the wings. So I've got a 22.5 inch by 22.5 inch sheet of Formica there. Each wing is 24 by 24 with oak trimming on it. So again, just using some contact cement, spread it all out there, nice and even. Try to get a good even coat on each side there on the Formica and also on the MDF side. Takes more than you think. Spread it all out. Okay, so there I'm going to now put some 1x1s or boards down there just so that I can get my Formica positioned over the worktop and then push it down from the middle. I like to start from the middle and work my way out. That way I'm not getting any bubbles or weird stick downs where I don't want it to be stuck down. And then just use my roller to press everything down nice and secure. All right, trim it out just like everything else. So you just take your trim router and you put a trim blade on it and take your router and trim it out. It's really easy. Does a really great job. Be careful though, that Formica, when you trim it off like that, it will cut. All right, so here I am. I'm going to cut off the front edge of my table saw. I agonized over this for a little bit. Had not originally planned on doing this, but I found that I was going to have to do some weird stuff to try to make that front edge work, and I decided in the end just to take my angle grinder and just cut it off. It's going to make everything much easier. I will be making a new fence for this, so I won't even be using the edge of that. And I decided, once I put it inside this cart, I don't think I'm ever going to be taking it out again, so what the heck, let's go for it. All right, so now I am getting ready to make the worktop for the router top. It's a little larger than the side wings, but the same process again, you know, cut it out, laminate it on, use your contact cement on both sides. I just wiped it down, got all the dust and everything off of it best I could. Spread my contact cement onto it, same process as before, and just get everything put in place. Yep, so once again, just laying it out, starting it from the middle and rolling it out. And take it off and trim it. And then I've put all of the inside pieces for the router top. So right here, I'm putting in some slides. I'll explain at a later time why I'm doing this, but I've got some slides, some drawer slides right here that I'm going to secure the router top onto with. Make sure I get everything lined out right. And then these are some carriage blocks I made. So these carriage blocks are going to carry that router top forward like this. And you see I've got some box hinges on there. So I've got it set up here in a vertical way. I did want this to be able where I could just tilt it up and secure it in place. So this is the router top. I'll let you guess what I'm going to do with it later like this. This is one of the surprises I talked about. Code does exactly what I want. Pulls out, tilts up, put the router in, the router plate will sit inside there, and yeah, I'm going to put a little shelf there that I can take off and remove when I need to tilt it up. So, works pretty good. Here it is, I'm putting a little clear coat on it with some polyacrylic, just to do a little protection on it. Not getting too crazy with it, just putting it over everything that's exposed. Okay, so here it is, all completely finished. You saw it at the beginning of the intro. A couple things I wanted to point out. So down here you can see the work table casters that I put on it. I initially was going to try to do it myself with a couple pieces 2x4, and I cut out some, took some angle iron and tried to make a little latch, and it just didn't work very well. It had some hinges on it and the whole thing, and it was just like a lot more work than it needed to be. I spent a whole day trying to make that work, and it just didn't work. So I just decided to go ahead and buy these casters. They work completely great. You just take your foot and you push down on those pedals and it lifts it up off the ground, and then when you want to place it where you want it, you just let them down and it sits it right down nice and solid, and that cart becomes pretty much unmovable. It's really nice and move around. And then you can also see the eye bolts here as opposed to what I was using before with the aluminum rod. What happened was I had the side shelf lifted up, the side wing lifted up, and I had pulled that rod out. If you look under here, I pulled that rod out and had flipped the top over at one point, and then forgot I had this extended out and let that top down, and it ended up bending that aluminum rod. So I decided that, well, that wasn't probably a good thing, because who knows how many times that would happen. So I went and bought a couple of 8-inch eye bolts, pulled out the aluminum rods. It worked way better. I don't know why I didn't think of that to begin with, but you know, you make mistakes and you learn from them, and sometimes something even better comes out of it. All right, so a couple other things I noticed or came across when I was building this mistake. I had made this piece, for whatever reason, shorter than the rest of the top. I was 3/4 of an inch too short, and you can kind of see up here, I had to put an extra piece of trim in there just to make it come out right. So, but whatever, you know, that's what makes it fun. You do things, and then you make mistakes, and you fix them, and you still come out with something great that you made by your own hands. Okay, so what's next? Well, coming up next, the next thing I want to do for this is I'm going to build a fence for the table saw. And I've got a plan for that, and should be a nice build. And it's going to be part of the modular aspects of this. So you'll see some interesting things I'm going to do with that. I want to make the fence where I can move it easily across all the way, even down to the side wing on this side, all the way up to the blade. So it's going to have a large area where I can put some sheet goods in there. And eventually I will build an outfeed table on this and a little infeed support on the front of it. But the fence is the next thing, and the fence will also have a micro adjustment on it, but I will probably save that for a later video. I've got some ideas, and I've already got that all planned out, but I'm not going to build it yet. So I'll be able to get rid of the straight edge that I can't keep very square. I'll be able to get rid of that and have a nice fence that I'm going to build. They'll be nice and square. Hopefully will always be square whenever I use it. So table saw fence is next. Then the next part of the next video after that will be the router. We're going to put the router in place, and then we'll build a router fence. So this next 3 or 4 videos are planned out. I did say at the beginning that I was going to break this video up into maybe 2 or 3 different videos, but as you saw, I couldn't really decide how to break it up into 2 or 3 videos. I just went ahead and did it with one. I had over 125 hours of video recorded, and you know, how do you break up a big build like this where it makes sense? So there it is. You know, it was a long video, and I'm probably making it longer by going on and talking, but I just wanted to tell you what's coming up next. But if you like this video and you like this build, be sure to like and subscribe and share with all your friends, and hopefully the next video won't take so long to get out to you. So that's all I've got for this video. Thank you so much. God bless. Have a great day, and we'll see you the next time.